We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say, you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Men's Tennis Through the Decades. Tonight we have the decade of the 1990s, joining head coach Bruce Myers and our two-time senior captain, Marwan Abaza. Marwan is from Boca Raton, Florida, and we're glad to have him on the call tonight. My name is Todd Newcomb, and I want to thank Geisinger as our sponsor. Geisinger has done a great job throughout the pandemic, and they also do a fantastic job day in and day out with our student athletes here at Bucknell. So thank you to Geisinger. Let me introduce the alums we have on the call tonight, and then I'll turn it over to Coach. So our first alum is from the class of 1992, Drew Cantor. Drew was a team captain during the 91-92 season. His overall combined singles and doubles record of 60-27 ranks 10th all time with a 69% win rate. He was the East Coast Conference champion at 6 singles in 1990, and he was the Patriot League champion at 3rd singles in 1991. Our next guest from the class of 1995 is Mark McGuire. Mark was a team captain during both the 93-94 and 94-95 seasons. His overall combined singles and doubles record of 79-55 ranks 16th all time with a 59% win rate. His doubles record of 42-24 ranks 13th all time with a win rate of 64%. Mark was an All-Patriot League selection in singles play in 1994. He was the Patriot League's men's tennis scholar athlete in 1995, and he won the Robert A. Latour Service Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner. Our next guest from the class of 1999, Steve Baumberger. Steve was the team captain during both the 97-98 and 98-99 seasons. He ranked 17th all time with 102 combined singles and double wins at Bucknell. He ranks 14th all time with 52 singles wins and 17th all time with 50 doubles wins. Along with partner TK Kelly, he was an All-Patriot League selection in doubles play in 1999, and he won the Lee S. Bud Rank Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner. Our next guest from the class of 2000 is TK Kelly. He was the team captain during the 99-2000 season. He ranks 21st all time with 87 combined singles and doubles wins. His singles record of 44-26 ranks 15th all time with a win rate of 63%, while his doubles record of 43-23 ranks 12th all time with a win rate of 65%. TK was an All-Patriot League selection in singles play in both 1998 and 1999, as well as in doubles play in 1999 with partner Steve Baumberger. He was chosen to the Patriot League's All-Decade, as well as the league's 25th anniversary team. TK won the Lee S. Bud Rank Memorial Award at the Athletic Department's Senior Awards Dinner. And our next guest from the class of 2001 is Justin Quant. His singles record of 38-21 ranks 13th all time with a win rate of 64%, and he ranks 40th all time in school history with 57 combined singles and doubles wins. So, Coach, we've got another good group. I'm going to turn it over to you and Marwan. Let's have fun.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks for everybody for being on the call. A great group of guys. This is my era of college, so hopefully we have some things in common. First question I'm going to throw out there, just a little, you can give me a little background about what you've been doing, life after college, where do you live, married, and what's going on. So we'll start first with Steve.
Thanks, Coach. I live in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania right now. Have been here for 8 years. Prior to that, 10 years in Chicago. Have a wife and 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. They are 5th grade, 3rd grade, and 1st grade. Work for a company called SEI, and ironically, I've been there since Bucknell. So they recruited on campus, got a job right out of Bucknell into SEI, and have been there ever since.
And Steve, always good to see you at a Temple tournament. We'll miss that this fall, but maybe we'll see you in the spring. So
hope to make it to more. Sure, Coach. Thank you.
That's great. Next, we'll go to TK, Tom Kelly.
Hey, good evening, Tom Kelly. I live in Denver, Colorado. Have been here for 4 years. Prior to that, I was living back in Northeast Florida, where I went to high school. Married to my high school sweetheart, and we have 3 kids now, 2 girls and a boy, 8th, 5th, and 2nd grade. So happy to be here.
Great to have you. Next, we'll stop with Drew. Drew Cantor. What have you been up to?
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Coach, and thanks for the opportunity to do this. I live in Washington, D.C. I've been here since shortly after graduation, moved here in 1993, worked on Capitol Hill for about 6 years, and now am a partner in a lobbying firm, a bipartisan firm called Peck Madigan Jones. We live in Spring Valley, which is near the DC Maryland line, next to a rival of ours, actually, American University, where we spend a lot of time.
There you go. Unfortunately, they don't have tennis right now. Maybe
I know.
someday. They got great facilities, I think, still on campus, though, don't they?
They do.
That's what I thought. Next, we'll go to Mark McGuire.
All right, I'm muted. Hey, Drew, good to see you, by the way. Hello.
Great to see you too, Mark.
Yeah, man. You don't look any different.
Likewise.
No, I don't have any hair left. Anyways, so I live in southeastern Massachusetts, small town named Mansfield. It's kind of next to where the Patriots play in Foxborough. Been here for probably about 15 years. My wife, Katie, she's awesome. We have 3 great kids, a sophomore in high school, an 8th grader, and a 3rd grader, 2 boys and a girl. I'm an emergency physician. I work at a community hospital pretty close to here. Keeps me busy. I work a lot at nights, actually. So I've kind of become a nocturnist, so to speak, and frees me up to do a lot of coaching. I actually coach a lot of sports with my kids and otherwise. So.
Thanks, Mark. And next, we'll go to Justin. Justin, what have you been up to since life after Bucknell?
Yeah, Justin Quant. Currently living in Chicago. Been here since relatively soon after school. I just kind of wanted to experience, big city living. I'm from the West Coast, and I came out here originally with one of our other tennis buddies, Alex Davidoff, who might be in the 2000s decade call. I'm not sure. But so I've been here for the past 15 or so years, and I've enjoyed an extended bachelorhood. I've done an extensive amount of traveling all over the world, which is something I've really enjoyed. I was always into entrepreneurship, and about 10 years ago, I started my own fitness company, and so we have some training studios here in Chicago, and I also have been involved with some other entrepreneurial ventures and venture startups and things like that.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. So this one strikes home for me because I was being recruited in your area too. And obviously it's much different in our days being recruited than YouTube and UTR and the like. But give me a little story about the recruiting process for you and why and how you ended up at Bucknell. So go back to Steve.
So by the time I decided I wanted to play tennis in college, I was a little behind the curve. I didn't have the big rankings, the national rankings that a lot of people did. It was in the area of put the videotape together. So put the old videotape out there on the tripod. The camcorder was about this big, that on the tripod, and put together a half-hour workout video. And as I'm sure we all did, we kind of knew the profile where we would fit. I wanted to go to a school that I was excited about, not just from a tennis perspective, but also from an academic and sort of environment that I thought I would appreciate being in. Wanted to make an impact, so didn't want to stretch too much and not be able to contribute to a team. I didn't want to make a team but not really play. So I was fortunate enough to find my way to Bucknell. I think it was maybe 3rd or 4th year that Coach Hammerly had taken the helm, and Bucknell is one of those special places that I'm sure we all felt it. I got there, and it was just the immediate feeling of this could be my home. And then I met the team. And Mark, I met you at practice, hung out with Scarborough and Drew Timmy, had a great night there. Didn't meet a single person on that team that didn't seem like a great individual. They kind of liked Hammerly's passion and zest for the game. And I knew he was willing to kind of give me a shot to make an impact here. So went for it. Worked out.
Outstanding. Thanks. TK, a little bit about your background and how you ended up at Bucknell.
Well, I'm originally from Philadelphia and then moved to Florida when I was in middle school. So the idea of going to college back up in the Northeast always appealed to me. Just missed the four seasons, the weather. Florida was just way too hot for me to play tennis. So I did a recruiting trip, drove around one summer and looked at a bunch of schools, and I don't know, but Bucknell hit all the buttons for me. Similar to Steve, it was trying to find the right balance of academics, athletics, still be able to play Division I tennis, but have that right balance of that and social life too. So when I visited, this campus felt right. Bob Hammerly had a, Steve put it, zest for the game. He had that personality that seemed like, it was going to be fun. And when you're on long road trips, you want to have that excitement, that energy, and he brings that. So that was a big part of it. And I stayed with Steve Bomberger, who's a year ahead of me, and showed me around the campus, introduced me to the team, and I had a very similar experience where it just felt right. Felt like these are the guys that I wanted to spend my next 4 years with. So it was a pretty easy decision when I walked away from that campus after one trip.
Great. Drew, tell us about your experience and how you ended up at Bucknell.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. And by the way, I need to add to my intro because my wife and daughter would kill me for not mentioning them. I have been married for almost 10 years, got married later in life, have a 4-year-old daughter and 2 dogs as well. So just wanted to add that as a brief postscript. In terms of how I got to Bucknell, I think Mark and I, my good friend Mark McGuire, and I are the only ones who played under Coach Reynolds. And so I had a great experience meeting with Coach Reynolds. I looked at some other Patriot League schools like Lafayette. I also looked at the University of Richmond, which had a fantastic tennis program. But I really liked the feel of the Bucknell campus. I met some players when I made my visit. I also made a video as they did back in the day for Coach Reynolds. And when I stayed on campus for my visit, I stayed with a friend of the family, and he took me to Sig Derby, which was this outdoor all-day party. And that proved to be kind of a big incentive as well. But no, I mean, joking aside, it was Coach Reynolds was terrific. It seemed like a first-rate program. The academics were exceptional, and the campus was one that I just fell in love with. So it was the right fit.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Mark, tell us about your experience and how you ended up at Bucknell.
So I don't remember great details. It's a long time ago. I do remember just feeling like a perfect fit academically, athletically, socially. I mean, everything seemed to just be right. I do remember watching the team play. So I remember watching Drew play actually, and they played an indoor match in the field house against Ryder, and they came out on top, I believe. And I was pretty impressed just watching the compete level of the team. But I remember meeting with Coach Reynolds like that day, and he was not a man of many words, as Drew would probably attest. But he's a great coach, and I felt pretty confident I could come in and contribute, or at least have a part in the team. And I just remember him saying, like, "Well, we'll see how you look like in the fall." Like, he was very much a straight shooter, which I appreciated. But it was a great decision for me, and I'm very happy I went to Bucknell, and the overall experience in all fronts was tremendous. And I just that was just pretty funny. Like, it kind of made me have to. I definitely in my mind was like, well, I'm gonna definitely have to keep working here because I don't think there's nothing getting given to me. So it was pretty cool.
Outstanding. Thanks so much. Justin, let's hear how a West Coast guy ended up at Bucknell.
Yeah, so a little bit of a different approach or background, but I was living in Belgium is where I went to high school. My family was living overseas. And so, kind of came over for the summer to the college tour. And Bucknell actually wasn't on my original list of schools that I was looking at, but ironically, I think both Lehigh as well as Lafayette were on the list. And as I was traveling around kind of the area, visiting some schools, we had sort of an impromptu reunion with some family members, and I have like a great aunt or something who's an alum of Bucknell, and she was just adamant that Bucknell get added to the tour stops. It was kind of on the way, so it wasn't actually initially a planned visit, but when I came, similar to what a lot of other people had said, I just kind of really felt connected both to the campus as well as the people. Steve, clearly an influential aspect of recruiting for that generation, because I think I stayed overnight with you, or at least hung out for the night. And, he just kind of showed me what Bucknell life and social life was all about. And just that experience, it just made me feel comfortable. It was what I, imagined and hoped to have as a college experience. It made it easy to kind of take that step. I do remember Coach kind of saying, because I don't think he really had much experience with evaluating people's results from overseas, but he was sort of very casual in his sort of, well, if you want to try to walk on the team, you're welcome to give it a shot. It was kind of what I remember saying, something like that to me. But I got a chance to watch people play, and I knew it was going to be a good fit, level wise and stuff with the rest of the guys on the teams.
Awesome. There seems to be a theme of how social impacted a lot of these visits to campus, which obviously is an important role at the life of a student athlete at Bucknell. So that's great to hear. So, all right, third question. This is going to be a little more difficult to throw out to you. So you've got to pick one memorable, whether it's something that happened, but in relation to the tennis, what was the most memorable thing of your time as a student athlete at Bucknell? We'll start with Steve.
You can't do just one.
Got to pick one.
There might be one within a whole thing. So based upon the conversation before we started taping this, I have to say Coach Hammerly getting Patriot League Coach of the Year in 1997, it was a big deal for us. I mean, he came off my freshman year. I think we were 14-6. Sophomore year, 14-8. Coming off of those two seasons, Mark, I know you guys had a great team, but I think, I saw the pride in him, getting that award. And I think 98, he got some Bucknellian award for maybe Coach of the Year as well. But 98, really the full body of work is what I'm probably most proud of and is most memorable to me. Looking back on that, and then not to get too philosophical, but, I'm a big believer in results and outcome, but I'm also a big believer in how you get there. And I think when you have a journey over a period of time that's just so fun and you feel like you do most of it the right way, and then the outcome gives you that kind of reward that you would really hope for at the end, that was our 98 season. And it's so fun to be here with Justin and TK and Alex Dannon, who was going to be here. We went 19-2 that year in 1998, which was a really big year. Now, we didn't play the competition that you guys are playing today, so it's a little bit of a different world, but that was a really big year for us. And we capped off, I think, the second to last match of 98. We beat Lehigh at Lehigh 4-3, which gave us a better seed going into the tourney, and we're able to get third place in the Patriot League that year behind the academies, which always beat the crap out of us, of course. So just a really, really fun year. And if you'll just let me indulge a little bit here for a second, I went back and I found an old book that I had. Remember these old brochures I used to put together. And I went back and I just thought I'd given the people on this call, TK 98 this season, you were 18-2 in singles. Justin, you were 15-2 that year, 98.
Wow.
Alex Dannon, who was going to be on this call, wasn't able to make it. 14-3. And we won't talk about my record, but I mean, just a really, really great year and a bunch of neat personalities that all came together to make that year very special.
That's awesome. That's great. TK, who was a part of that. Give me a memorable moment from your time.
It's hard to pinpoint, but I'll give you the one thing that I always resonates with me is just the road trips. Just spending time in the van. We had a few seasons where our schedule would flop and we'd be on the road. It seemed like 75% of the time. And that may have been that year, Steve. I don't know with all your stats, but I remember one year we were on the road. It seemed like, again, 3/4 of the time, and just I think we all were getting pretty fidgety in the van. We'd have tennis bags, ball hoppers, racket stringers, all cramped into a van. And we would do this 3-4 times a week. And if it wasn't for the people on the team to make that memorable, fun, just all the time you spend with each other, that's really kind of what really resonates, believe it or not, is just the time with the guys. And in the van, you have nowhere to go, nowhere to be. And you had Hammerly driving and joking. And if anybody had to go to the bathroom, they'd say, "Coach, TK needs to go to the bathroom." And that would be the way that we'd get them, coach, to stop, because I guess I was the coach's pet there for a while. But it was just the time spent with the team that really resonates with me when I look back at those 4 years.
Awesome. That's great. Drew, give me a memorable experience.
Absolutely, Coach. And I remember it like it was yesterday. So it was the 1991 Patriot League tournament at Colgate. We were underdogs to the academies. It was our second year in the Patriot League. We somehow were playing way above our heads throughout the entire tournament. And I was playing number 3 singles, and I had a tough match. It was a strange match because I won the first set, and then I lost the second set 6-love because my opponent from Colgate had an out-of-body experience, just didn't miss a shot the entire set. And I was pretty gassed from all the matches that we had played. So I had a banana in between sets and some water, started feeling better, was able to grind it out, won, I think, 6-4. And I didn't know where things stood in terms of the team score. And I came off the court, and my parents had made the trip up to Colgate, and my dad told me that match clinched the Patriot League championship for us, which, like I said, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was an incredible experience. Wasn't quite Villanova over Georgetown or NC State over Houston, but it was a pretty big upset to beat Army and Navy in the Patriot League tournament. And it was just a wonderful memory from my tennis career, my time at Bucknell. And to cap it off, Coach Reynolds somehow found a case of Miller High Life on ice that we all enjoyed in the 5-hour van ride back to campus.
You know, Marwan can vouch for this. In my office, not a very big office, but I have a shelf behind me, and right there sits that Patriot League trophy. It's the only one the men's program's ever won until hopefully 2021, but it's right behind my head. So that's awesome. That's great. Mark, top that.
Top that, honestly. Come on, nothing to top that. You couldn't let you had to go last. I mean, I used to hear that story just from the guys that had played on that team, like both Drew being a senior and then other guys behind him that were on that team. But that was awesome. It was always a bummer to me that we never kind of got back there in my career at Bucknell, that we never really knocked on the door. And the funny thing is, Drew could probably attest to this. I remember when I showed up as a freshman, I was like, wow, that team's got everybody coming back except for the number 5 guy, I think, graduated. But as it turned out, the number 1 guy graduated early, and the number 2 guy, I guess, had some grade issues. Bruno, right? Drew, wasn't his name Bruno? Something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. So, anyways, I was hopeful that we'd get a repeat there, but it didn't quite work out. And I guess I got 2 kind of the tie, and I'm sorry to bring in 2, but one thing that they used to do with tennis, which I think is an unfortunate thing that they switched, was my freshman year was the only year they did this, was the doubles used to come after the singles, and used to play a legit 3-set doubles match. And I remember, and I'm not sure, I want to say it was Delaware, but I'm not sure. I know it was on the road. And I remember it came down to, we basically, that team, Drew was a senior on that team, but I remember we always felt like if we could get a couple points in singles, we had 3 really strong doubles teams, and we always had a shot. And I remember I think it was Delaware, or maybe it was a different team. I remember being down 2-4 going into doubles, and we swept the doubles, and it came down to, I think, the third pairing doubles, and everyone was like, cheering it on. And when they won that match, it was like, it was really cool when you'd win a match like that, a deciding match, like when the doubles teams all like prevailed. I think that's a pretty cool thing. The tie for me, just from a personal standpoint, was playing in Lafayette, also away, playing a kid who was a rival of mine. It was his birthday, and he had about 100 or 150 fraternity brothers watching it, drinking during the match. And I lost the second set, and I was down 4-2 in the third set, and it looked like there was no way I was going to win that match. And somehow I beat him 7-1 in a third set tiebreak. And that was a deciding match. And my whole team coming over, like when we won that match, like crowd in the court, and then just basically being able to give those polite people that were heckling us the whole day kind of like a fake clap to them. Those are my 2 kind of on-court memories that I remember the most.
Thanks, Mark. And then we'll go to the baby. Justin, what was your favorite memory?
Yeah, well, 2 come to mind. So one moment of personal glory, and then one that's a little bit more embarrassing to share. But yeah, I think it might have been during that 98 season, Steve. But at the time, Colgate was kind of our primary rival because we were just always really closely matched against them. But we had lost to them my first 2 years at Bucknell, and it just worked out that year that we were in a 3-3 tie, and my match was the last one on the court, and just a super competitive, back and forth. And I really feel like I played my best that day too. And I just remember us having these like baseline rallies on and on match point. I just remember hitting this like perfect backhand that I just ripped down the line and just like, it was probably, I'm a pretty chill person, but I just like let out a scream, and like everyone came over and hugged me and stuff. It was my personal highlight of college tennis. And just an awesome way. I think it was towards the end of the season. It was just an awesome way to kind of like cap what a great season that we had.
Can I jump in here? April 5th, 1998. Now remember the match too. I just looked over here. We won 4-3.
I'm so glad you have all this info.
And then we beat Colgate to get 3rd place in the Patriot League Championship 4-0, if you remember. So, yeah. But I remember that scream. Sorry, I remember that scream on that backhand, because you were quiet, but that was a big scream. I'm going on mute again now.
Steve, we're gonna hire you, Steve, for sports information.
Yeah, we could use you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was pumped. The second moment, Steve and TK were definitely there for. Alex still makes fun of me about this to this day, so it's unfortunate. He tells the story even better. But basically, so we would go on these long road trips or whatever, and we all had the Adidas slide sandals, and that was like our van attire for when we were traveling. Anyway, we get to the match. I think it was like maybe one of those tournaments, the East Coast tournament or something like that. And it's like, we're getting ready. It's the next morning. It's like 7 a.m. We're getting ready. And all of a sudden I realize I forgot to bring my tennis shoes with me to the match. And I was like, oh shit, what do I do? And I'm really tall and I wear a size 13 shoe. So like nobody else wears the same size as me. And I'm like, fuck. So I have to go to coach and like tell him that I don't have my shoes. And he's like, what? And then we got a match starting at 8 or 8:30 or something like that. So we try to drive to the mall, and they're not open yet. And coach is getting so pissed. And we go in there and they don't have the right size. And we feel like it just was this unbelievable cluster to say the least. So finally get the shoes, get back in the van, and we were in this parking garage or something. And basically coach is like, he floors the van, and we're like slaloming through the through the supports that hold the garage up, because he was just, he was I can get distracted easily. He was super on top of everything in terms of getting us that put us way behind and getting to the match. So I sat in silence, ashamed of myself for the bride, but I think I won my match that day, and that helped a little bit. So now I always think about my shoes when I'm packing for a trip. Now it's the first thing I think of.
Coach, you're on mute.
Yep. Thanks, Justin. I'm going to pass it over to Marwan for a question or two from him.
Yes, sir. So my transition, I did transfer to Bucknell, so it was a big transition going from Florida, like Justin, to Bucknell. So I want to ask you guys, what would be your biggest piece of advice to me and to the freshmen on my team to acclimate and I guess get the best experience out of Bucknell? And let's start with Drew.
Yeah, great question. I think it's important when you're a student athlete to strike the right balance, and that's hard to find sometimes. So you have to do pretty much everything well, and you first and foremost have to focus on academics, make sure that everything is shored up on that front. Then secondly, athletics and doing everything you can to help the team and to succeed yourself. And then thirdly, the social aspect of college is really important, and you develop as a person over those 4 years in college and make really great friends and friendships that you'll have for the rest of your life. So it's those three things are hard to balance sometimes, and I didn't always get it right with that balance. But I think just keeping in mind that those should be considered 1, 2, 3, and not losing sight of that, if possible, is important. And then a corollary to that is just recognizing that you won't always be able to strike that balance. And that's okay, because you're a college student and you're still learning, and you'll have these life experiences in college, hopefully mostly good. Some, maybe not so good, but that's all part of life and part of learning.
Hopefully, good answer. Thank you. Let's go with Mark.
Yeah, great stuff there, Drew. What I think, this is such an incredible, crazy time of the world, right? What I would tell all the freshmen is embrace every day like it's your last day to play. Go to that practice or that match and be like, this might be my last practice, last match of the year, my career, because you just don't know what tomorrow brings. I coach a hockey team right now, and before every game or before every practice, like, hey, this might be our last time on the ice, so make the best of it. But whether that's school, the social aspects around school, or being on the court, just with COVID, you gotta. It's almost like it's a great motivator, because when you do, hopefully, you guys. I mean, I follow the team a little bit, and you guys seem like you have a real legit roster this year, and I hope to hell you guys get to play and you bring that title home that we've been missing since 1991, right? Oh my God, that's a long time. But just embrace every day like it's the last, and hopefully it's not the last, but you just never know what it's going to bring.
It's a lot easier to act like it's the last one. It actually could be the last for me now, so I have been training harder. Thank you for that. Let's go with Steve.
So the two-pronged question, first of all, lock up that 5th year for you.
Yes, sir.
And for the freshmen, the second part of the question, I mean, Drew, Mark, great commentary there. The only thing I will say to add to all that good stuff is, tennis will never be the same for you when you walk off that court at Bucknell for the last time. To be able to, and you take it for granted sometimes. Obviously you have wisdom and you look back and you're like, man, I wish I would have taken a second, maybe a few times a year and sat there on the court and looked down the line, looked at the team and thought about what you were playing for. Because tennis will be in your life for a long time, but it'll never be in your life that same way. Playing for a group of people that you have grown to love, that you've been on those car trips with and bus trips with, and, been in the gyms together and been early mornings and late evenings. Play for an institution, a storied institution like Bucknell, 100 years in the sport. I mean, all that stuff's really, really cool. And it's very, very easy to take for granted. So, while you're, again, we go back to kind of results and journeys, and, it's great to look at those results. And I join these guys in saying, if you could bring back a trophy, man, what an awesome feat that would be. But it's about how you get there too, and making sure you enjoy that. And I think you're hearing that from all of us here today too, that there's as much as we remember about that than there is the outcome of what we had. So that would be my piece of advice for the freshmen.
It's great advice. Let's go with Justin.
Yeah, some really great words of wisdom already. I think looking back at the experiences with the perspective and wisdom of age, I would have leaned more into the relationships with the upperclassmen when I was a freshman, because I see how valuable that was, and especially in retrospect, to be able to, most freshmen aren't going to have an opportunity like that, to have that level of relationship with upperclassmen, both from a team and sports perspective, as well as just what college life is like. So that was something that I think there's a lot of value from. And then to kind of build upon that, like the cliche statement where people always say, college is the best 4 years of your life. It is a really amazing time, and everything like everyone else said. I mean, I remember so vividly all those trips we took and the times in the van, and we really bonded as friends and as teammates during that time. And it's just so awesome to have that as a memory. I ran into one point where I was struggling a bit academically in school, and I wish I had reached out a little bit more for help, because as a result of that, I actually only got to play 3 seasons. And that was one of the biggest disappointments of my college experience, was to not get to play that last year. So, kind of just taking it, leaning into those relationships and just not being afraid to ask for help if you ever need it.
For sure. I hope the younger guys hear this so that they get a little closer to me. And lastly, Tom.
Thank you. Everybody's hit the nail on the head there. And I think my biggest takeaway and piece of advice is just don't take it for granted. Every practice, every point, every drill you're doing, do things on your own. Just keep grinding, because you don't know when it's going to end. You think you may, but COVID has its own rules. I broke my hand my senior year and played with a broken hand. It was a lame duck in the number 1 position, and just couldn't play my game. And you don't know when things like that may happen. So it's not just for enjoying it and for selfish reasons. It's also, it's going to translate later in life. It's the cliche. There's life lessons learned in athletics, and tennis is different than a lot of sports. It's an individual sport, yet during these 4 years in college, you're actually playing on a team. And that resonates with me, because I really got burned out in high school. I played all the time, and traveled by myself with the coach or with the parent. And when I got to college, you're with the team. And I think that goes back to my story of what do I remember most. It was not traveling on the weekends without my friends. It was being with my friends and traveling with them. So just appreciate that, and continue to grind it out and do your best, because it's a short window of time. When you're a freshman, you think 4 years is going to last a lifetime, and it goes by in a blink. So just enjoy those times and make the most of it.
Thank you. I think Coach has another question. So let me dish out to Coach.
Thanks, Marwan. This is going to be difficult, but if you can narrow it down to one, and I'm always curious to see if it's someone who was a captain of your team or who you'd pick, but Give me one teammate of yours who had a really positive impact upon your career. So we'll go to Steve first.
First of all, it was Justin the day he forgot the shoes.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
That was, and the story was right on and very accurate. And just an unbelievable day, and he did win his match. But I have to go with my man TK. I mean, what a treat to get to play with him for 3 years at number one doubles, man. We had a lot of fun doing it, and we won a lot. He was just so dang good. The one time, heck, I mean, maybe 5 times we had enough money as a program to get to West Branch. I think it's West Branch. Is that right?
Yeah.
You get up to West Branch, and the one time we were up at West Branch, and I think it was the only time I actually took a set off of you in 3 years. I felt like I'd won the U.S. Open, just the way you moved out there. So, obviously you and I always showed up. We worked hard. We left everything on the court in practice every time. It was a treat to do it with you guys, Justin, you and Dana, and really, really fun time. But TK, yeah, it was a treat, man, to be with you for sure.
Awesome. Now we'll go to TK.
All right, well, this was prepared. I wasn't just returning the favor here. Steve touched on it. We had different backgrounds in tennis. I came from Florida, played in a very competitive high school environment, played national tournaments. Steve was being Mr. Zionsville and playing really competitive basketball, and tennis was part of his regimen, but wasn't all of it. And when I came to Bucknell, he was a sophomore. He was someone I could just grind with, and he was the most competitive player I played with that showed up every day. We beat each other up. Loved playing doubles with him. We had some big wins. We had a lot of battles with Justin and Alex Dannon, who only wish Alex was here right now, but we had a lot of good doubles matches, just practicing with and drilling with. And Steve was always inspiring to me, though, when it came to on court, even off the court. Coach Hermele would always keep us honest on the weekends, and we'd have Saturday, Sunday morning workouts at 8 a.m. And no matter how late Steve was up, which was usually pretty late, and kind of leading that charge, he was the first one there and ready to go and work hard. So just that type of work ethic was awesome. And he also had the personality to get everybody up, no matter how early it was or how bad you felt. He was kind of the ringleader to motivate everybody and make them get going.
Awesome. Thanks, TK. Drew, who did you admire and who inspired you?
Yeah, well, one guy who I admired who was younger than I was, who's on this call, is Mark McGuire. He was a great, great talent, tenacious competitor, and I just really enjoyed being a teammate of his. Another person, though, would be Ed Hess, who was legendary in Bucknell tennis. And he was a senior when I was a sophomore. And he had some, Todd, I'm not sure if you have his singles record, but it was crazy good.
16-2.
16-2. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that.
There you go.
Hall of Famer.
Eddie
I thought it was 59-3.
I thought it was 59-3 too. But he was about 5'11", $150, soaking wet, but he had so much raw talent and was such an intense competitor. I mean, he was just extraordinary. I remember a match against Delaware. There was a rain delay for about an hour, and this match was at Bucknell. And no one thought that we could play on the courts. And we thought that we would just have to resume the match at another date. Ed was playing this guy at number one singles in for Delaware, who was a really strong player, and they split sets. He went out himself and roll dried the courts so he could finish that match. It was a true testament to Ed's character and tenacious nature as a competitor. Just an extraordinary guy and an incredible player.
Thanks, Drew. We've heard so much about. We're trying to get him back. I want to meet him in person, and hopefully we can drag him back out of Texas someday. So.
Yeah, and Coach, I saw him about 3 or 4 years ago at an informal Bucknell tennis reunion in Las Vegas.
In Vegas with Scott Steeler there, and
he was.
Yes, I've seen pictures from that event. Yeah. Yes, that's awesome. Thanks, Drew. Mark.
Yeah, this single, I can't do it with just one, but I have it'll be brief though. I promise not to be long-winded. I mean, so the guy who was just talking, right? I show up as a freshman, and what a great captain Drew Cantor was, and to see him play matches. I wouldn't get to see him play all the time because we were playing side by side, and he often would be wiping the court off with the guy he just beat, and I'd still be out there struggling in the third set of my match. But he had a real good knack for never beating himself and staying really even keel, and I definitely learned a lot from him in that way. And another guy that I played doubles with for 2 years, Christian Stenström, kid from Sweden who grew up in Florida. He was a great guy to introduce me to college tennis doubles. We had a lot of great wins. We beat teams that I don't think we had any business beating from the academies and other teams. He was a great kid to play with for 2 years. I got 2 years with him to play doubles and be a teammate with him. We used to battle pretty hard in practice trying to outdo the other guy. But I'm going to go outside the box a little bit. I think the kid who I respected the most was the seventh player. It's a little bit weird, but the kid who didn't play top 6 singles or maybe even crack the doubles lineup, but was always there at every practice, working their butt off to try to get in the top 6 or trying to get on a doubles flight. Those types of kids I had a lot of respect for, because it's really easy to show up and work hard when you're playing a top flight or always getting playing time. But the kids I think that's a good lesson for the younger kids on the team too. Like, you never know when you're going to be needed. You never know when injuries happen, and you never know where you may outdo somebody or outtake somebody. So always go to practice, work hard. And I had a lot of respect for the guys who were on the van rides, not even necessarily playing in the match, or cheering on their teammates. And I bring that to like a lot of the character traits I try to instill in my kids, or being a teammate just in any sport they play.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. And now Justin.
Yeah, so getting to schools, I mean, certainly TK was influential. When we arrived, we were both freshmen the same year, and I think prior to that, on all the high school teams I had been on, I had always been like far and away the best player on the team. So to have that experience, someone as good as you are, TK, it really pushed me to raise my level of play and kind of like live into the talent and the experience that I had, which I think enabled me to really like have some really awesome matches in college. And also we had kind of an interesting experience because coming in, as mentioned, TK, Steve, and Alex and I, we spent a lot of time together, but I think beyond that, most of the rest of the team were like seniors that year. So there was a bit of even though it was like small in absolute terms, like a bit of a gap there. And Steve really kind of, took responsibility for us as freshmen to kind of help us, and we were playing like up the roster pretty far on the team and kind of help us like, I guess just live into that role. So it's something that I really, really appreciate, Steve, from you during that time. And also want to give a nod to Coach Hammerly as well. I think, from all the experiences I've had with tennis coaches, Coach Hammerly's, style was different than some of the other coaches that I've had. But, it's even looking back on it, I really appreciate how much he loves the game and how hard he pushed us to, and how enthusiastic he was all the time about us, being the very best team that we could be. And there's a lot that I've learned and that anyone can learn from applying that level of enthusiasm and determination towards something. That's a big part of how we achieved that 98 season.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We'll go back to Marwan for another question.
Yep. So my next question is, what advice do you guys have specifically about networking and also finding a good fit in a job after Bucknell and that whole process? And we'll start with Justin.
Yeah, great question. I think for me, the Bucknell, the Bucknell network, I haven't directly sought or received employment through it, but I definitely have appreciated tapping into it, and I've been in different levels of involvement, but I've tried to stay involved in the Chicago Bucknell community just because I love being able to, my Bucknell experience is awesome. Was an awesome experience for me, and I love being able to share that with other people. I think that as the world becomes more technology focused, and it's obviously that's become even more extreme in the current set of conditions, but I don't think that there's a substitute for in-person communication, and actually making the effort to connect with somebody, over coffee, or to do old school things like write handwritten cards and things of that nature. Those touches are even more meaningful in a increasingly technology focused and somewhat disconnected world. So, I would just say, be present and really give your listening to people, and that's more of a strategy once you're in contact with somebody. But I think that can make a big difference. And give you a leg up on your peers.
Thank you. Next we'll go with Steve.
So you're an econ major. You're set, buddy. Lots of econ majors there have done great things after Bucknell. So I would just say don't be bashful, don't be shy, cast a wide net, and be tenacious with that. It's great to sit here and talk about how fun tennis was for all of us and what it meant, but I think you're hearing again how important the school was. And we knew none of us were going to go pro, right? So it's what you do afterwards. And there is an incredible amount of successful stories out there. And I think it's a testament to the quality of the student and the quality of the person that goes to Bucknell and comes out of Bucknell. So while it's a small university and we don't have the big endowments and the big networks like the Notre Dames and things like that, the quality of that network and the ability to tap it. And I think the result you're going to get from doing that and the reaction back to you will help. So be tenacious with it.
Thank you. Tom.
Yeah, to piggyback off Steve's, there's a great network out there, and leverage that and be open, because unless you're like Steve Baumberger, who's the Cal Ripken of the corporate world, you're probably not going to do what you think you're going to do. You're going to start with the job, see what you like about it, what you don't like about it. And it's best to start doing that now, and leveraging this network that you can tap into through Bucknell alumni, and ask questions about what they're doing, learn about their day-to-day, and what you're thinking you want to do may be completely different than what you're going to be doing in a year or two. So just go into it with an open mind, and keep open the possibilities. Another key component is what I learned. I was in a part of the country where I really didn't want to be in. I moved back to Florida, where I left to go out of state for college, and I found myself back there for family reasons. I think that plays a big part too into where you want to be, and start marketing yourself and leveraging yourself to where you want to be. I wanted to be in Denver, and it took a long time once I started having a wife and kids to try to find the right opportunity. So if you can find where you want to be and just be open to new possibilities, you're in a great position. You've got a great degree coming from a great university, and just start those conversations sooner than later.
Thank you. Mark.
So, in the medical world, I don't think the networking probably has a little bit of a different feel to it. I will do one story I will have. The guy I interviewed with for medical school, I went to Columbia for medical school, and the dean of admissions who interviewed me had given a lecture at Bucknell literally like a year or two prior. And the great thing about Bucknell is he was blown away with how hospitable the place was, the students were, how opening they were. Now, I hope it may have helped get me in the door. I don't know, but I mean, I do think Bucknell has a great reputation, national reputation, and I think there's usually somehow, some way through the grapevine that it definitely could probably, help open doors. But I don't have a lot of other networking kind of wisdom for you at the moment. Sorry.
No, thank you. That was great. Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said, and I would just add that Bucknell is unique in that every person you talk to that went to Bucknell immediately lights up, and maybe that's not entirely universal, but it sure seemed that way to me ever since I've graduated and talked to people who have gone to Bucknell, and in every experience that I've had, they want to help. And so the point's been already made, but definitely try to harness that dynamic and that sentiment that exists among so many that went to Bucknell. The other thing is, try to utilize your summers as best you can. And I don't just mean that in terms of getting an office job. For example, I taught tennis between 2 summers, when I was a rising sophomore and rising junior, and I lucked out. A buddy of mine, Dave O'Connor, who was 2 years ahead of me, fellow tennis player, he had a job at a country club in Cape Cod, and they needed an extra pro. So after my freshman year, I went up to Cape Cod and taught tennis with him and met a lot of people. I had a great time. Likewise, the following summer, a buddy of mine from Bucknell, his parents had a place in Aspen, Colorado. So I went out there, lucked out, got a job teaching tennis, and met a lot of people. So, think about utilizing your summers, not necessarily having a 9-to-5 job working behind a desk, but capitalizing on teaching tennis if you have the opportunity, because that's a real networking powerhouse as well.
Great. I'll try to do that as much as I can this summer.
Marwan, what you had an internship this summer with a former Bucknellian who graduated, and I'm not sure when.
I did. I'm not sure what year exactly, but I had an internship with Mr. Balanin, Jason Balanin, in Red Bank.
I think he was 96 or something like that.
Yeah, I think he graduated 93 or 4.
Okay.
Right before I started. I think 94.
No. He was.
You're muted.
You're muted, Mark.
It's on mute. It's on mute.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. He was 96. He's a good friend of mine still to this day. Jason, love that kid.
Marwan
he was
had a
kind of
great
one of
time
the
with
people. He was one of the people I was referencing as kind of like a 7th player type of guy who was kind of in and out of the lineup, but never stopped working when I was playing with him.
I got to play.
We won a Bayhead Yacht Club member guest title once back in the day. That was Bucknell, but unbucknell. Great win. That was a lot of fun.
That's
Coach,
Yeah.
any closing comments?
This is it's been a fun group. It kind of harkens back to my time in college because it was kind of this era. Steve, I actually you were on campus 2 years ago, I guess, with doing some recruiting, which was really neat. And you've always come out to any Philadelphia matches, so it's great. The other four I haven't met as much. Actually, Mark, Justin, and Drew. I think it's first time we've spoken, which I'd like to get to know you guys better. And TK. Now that you're out in Denver, would still like to stay in touch, but I really appreciate you guys coming out. I know Marwan, it's funny because Marwan will call me as soon as he wakes up in the morning and recap and go over everything and like, where do these guys work again? Let me reach out. So I think it's indirectly a networking piece for him, but I think it's also some of the experiences you had, especially because this is his second year and hopefully he's got one more year in him of being captain that he can share with the younger guys. So thank you so much, guys.
And I'm going to direct my comments first to Marwan, and he's heard this once already because he's a veteran on these calls. But Marwan, thanks so much for joining us tonight. And come this spring, I hope that you're on the courts behind me, winning Patriot League matches and bringing home that championship trophy that all these guys have talked about tonight. That would be absolutely awesome. What a way to put an exclamation point on a year that's been absolutely just crazy from every standpoint. So we wish you the best of luck with that. And guys, thanks so much for taking the time out tonight to join the call. It was great to hear you guys reminisce and talk about the great times you had while members of the Bucknell tennis program. And I appreciate all that you did while you were on the courts here at Bucknell, how you represented the team and the institution. And more importantly, I appreciate what you've done since you've graduated and how you helped the program there as well. Our programs here cannot do what they do without the support of our alumni. So I thank you guys very much for that. And then for those of you at home tonight that tuned in to watch, thanks for doing so, and go Bison.